Caitlin Clark has now broke that glass ceiling, and they should be bowing at her. She's going to create jobs and money.
To hell with the WNBA. They're nothing. They're nobody. Nobody's watching.
They lost $50 million.
As predicted.
The WNBA collapsed following the unexpected departure of Kim Clark, and it's very obvious to them that very few people ever knew the WNBA existed, much less care to watch before Caitlin ever set foot in the league. But Caitlin brought more than just her skill with her. When she arrived, she brought notoriety, admirers, and most importantly cash. At last, the league was beginning to come alive. People were paying attention and discussing it. And then she was gone. And for once, the WNBA wasn't just a joke and an argument about sports. Without warning, to WNBA found itself in a financial bind once more. It appears as though Caitlin Clark left the building, and the cash science trail behind the WNBA appears to have nothing more than vacant arenas and unpaid expenses. As of right now, unbelievably, there is now far more fear emanating from the WNBA waste than there is from Cam. The WNBA decision to fire Caitlin Clark wasn't a minor setback. No, it felt more like pulling the plug on the WNBA life support system. They appear to be allergic to saving money while they are riding high one minute, and the following one. A flat surface. The speed at which the tables turn was almost laughable. The minute Caitlin left the league, which was that last beginning to see like a legitimate company, completely collapsed. The figures are truthful. The WNBA was doing better than it had ever done before to her departure. In reality, tickets were being purchased, the merchandise and cash were literally flying off the shelves. Yes, they were swimming in it like it screws with duck. However, it seems as though someone has turned on the switch lately. Furthermore, the financial crisis has been very disastrous. Many WNBA clubs have already concluded their season, and a large number of players have already left to play in other countries during the winter. But some of these players are wondering if they'll even make it with the controversy that surrounds the WNBA right now and their meager compensation. Not to mention the pay the players, or since the circumstances are so absurd, what's actually start there. Some of these players are probably thinking about taking over shifts between games, because their compensation has plummeted so much. We're talking about pay that would make the gym teacher at your high school seem like a Wall Street type. The best players in the WNBA, those who benefit financially from the Caitlin Clark effect, are currently witnessing a sharper decline in their bank accounts than the league's post-Clark TV ratings. According to reports, a few of these players are considering their own departure because playing in foreign competitions seems far better than waiting around for meager pay. If the WNBA continues providing the minimum wage contracts, they might as well start packing their bags for Europe. The U believes that our presence here does not need them to pay us extra. And I don't think I've mentioned it when I originally discussed prioritization. Our commissioner mentioned that we may potentially earn $700,000. That's actually completely untrue. Not a single player issues that we are also promised league and team marketing partnership. But they have 4. Caitlin was no ordinary player. She served as the WNBA's anchor pillar, and walking bank account was more than just butts on seats for her, for then she was essentially printing money, the sponsors, and the ratings. It was only because of her that they were present. But now that she's gone, it seems as though the league is hardly able to locate their wallet, much less save any money. They're struggling merely to keep the lights on because of how terrible the repercussions has been. It's not just the inexperienced players that are feeling the heat either. No, these severe wage cuts are affecting even the biggest players in the league. The changing areas, yes, they're essentially full with players who are unsure about whether to start pursuing psychics, because playing basketball by itself isn't enough these days. This season saw a tremendous boom. The WNBA, in my opinion, should have profited even more from the tremendous surge in retail sales, television viewership, sold-out arenas, and other factors. The WNBA front office, meanwhile, is completely freaked out. They exude confidence when Caitlin was around, as though everything was all right, because they had or to fall back on. However, at this point, their players are openly discussing leaving the WNBA from the eggs where they can still or respectable salaries, so they're essentially and damage control fighting to remain relevant. And to be honest, who could blame them when you're making less money? Then a middle school die for this financial collapse is nearly too good to be real. How can this much disruption be caused by one player quitting? She wasn't just any player. Rather, she was the player or jersey sold up faster than concert tickets. She was the one that the entire world watched, and she was the one who pulled millions of new players into league. The WNBA, his entire financial ecosystem has completely collapsed, and she left nothing seemed to be able to turn the tide year after year. They keep losing millions of dollars. and Caitlin Clark was the spark that ignited it all. This was no leisurely ascent. The league appeared to have been launched out of a cannon, and her name was virtually calling out loud. The Indiana Fever, who earlier had trouble even getting people to acknowledge their existence, found themselves inundated with admirers. As though their performance was the final one ever, held a 255% increase in ticket sales. Yes, that's ridiculous, as was impressive. Indiana became the new WNBA attendance champions after their home games drew a full house of 17,036 fans, instead of just a few dispersed spectators and concession workers. And Indiana wasn't the only state participating. Due of Caitlin's enormous impact, teams like Atlanta, Washington, and Las Vegas were forced to relocate their games to larger venues. Why? As it was everyone's desire to witness Caitlin Clark in action. The WNBA even questioned how to accommodate the attendance of the entire city for this season. The WNBA has witnessed a level of fandom never seen before. Last week, fresh data revealing the overall and its figures and the WNBA were released. Naturally, the Fever had the most fans throughout the regular season, 643,000 in all. And since those sales figures are really insane, that speak about jersey sales. A 1,193% rise in jersey sales for Fever. It's all because of one name, Clark. Not only did baseball players take those jerseys, though, to claim they had a layup. Those who couldn't distinguish between a layup and a jump shot were purchasing them. Caitlin Clark developed into more than a mere athlete. She was a true phenomenon, and the culture. Over 186,000 people packed Cambridge Fieldhouse during the season, with it to the 11 home games for the Fever sold out. That is nothing short of extraordinary for a squad that used to have trouble filling half the seats. Not alone did Clark attracted she had an army with her. 1.8 million people watched Game 1 of the first playoff series, while 2.5 million watched Game 2. To put that into perspective, the first round series alone has already attracted more viewers on average than any previous WNBA finals in league history. Basketball player Caitlin Clark was more than that. She was a walking, talking phenomenon who drew an audiences that probably didn't know what a three-pointer was, in addition to die-hard basketball fans. Her impact was immediate and enormous, and everyone wanted to see her make history. And let's discuss June 23, 2024, the Fever's day matchup with the Chicago Sky. This was not your average game. At its peak, the game attracted 3.3 million watchers, but it only attracted to 0.3 million. Not only is that outstanding for the WNBA significant, it had been 23 years since the league had seen those types of figures. Not since the early days, when the whole women's professional basketball thing still piqued people's interest. It was more than just Caitlin mapping the and a Fever. The whole league was basically resting on her back for the first time. It seemed like everyone was genuinely paying attention, as she transformed infrequent watchers into WNBA fanatics in an instant. Clark participates in a postseason match more over 2 million people are watching, compared to less than 1 million watching the very following game in which she does not play. However, she later departed. And boy, did things spiral out of control without Caitlin Clark. The WNBA would be like a birthday celebration, with that cake, just clumsy and a little depressed. The arena's abandoned settlements. It's nearly terrible to look at how badly attendance has declined in an attempt to lure fans back in the seats. Teams are essentially tossing Hail Marys, however, nothing is working. Even the most devoted admirers are staying home and/or absent due to the powerful Caitlin effect. Probably browsing Netflix rather than witnessing players attempt to enthrall an absentee audience while the arena's half empty. The figures or truthful tickets to the Fever games were in high demand during his playing days. Consider that game against the Chicago Sky on June 23rd was selling tickets brought in an average of $346. That's the domain of Beyoncé concerts, however, right? Now it is almost like giving out free tickets, not that people are exactly queuing up for them. Even then, in the end, Caitlin Clark was more than simply a WNBA player. The player was her, the vital organ that kept the league alive since her departure. The WNBA appears to be operating on empty, frantically trying to find any means necessary to continue operations. However, without her celebrity, the league feels as though it is just one poor quarter away from collapsing. Teams are currently reducing expenses in the most humiliating manners imaginable. Although the WNBA is clearly desperate, they are making an effort to present a brave front. Salary reductions are occurring on all sides. It's not only harming the athletes either, the league is falling apart because of it. It was like taking down the bottom Jenga block when Caitlin left. As of right now, nobody knows how to stop the entire thing from collapsing. It's incredible to consider that not too long ago, the Women's National Basketball Association was experiencing growth and success following years of hardship. And now they're over here slipping away at salaries as if they were Sunday paper coupons. The league's financial stability has been taken away by Kitten's departure, and they are now faced with the harsh reality. Right now, the WNBA is in danger of becoming bankrupt.